and state initiative. So I'm Leonora C. I'm the chair of RCPC, and I'd like to welcome you all. One comment ahead of time. I know there are going to be a lot of questions, but if you could save your questions for the end, because we've got a lot to cover tonight, so we need to move through it quickly. And now I'm going to introduce Sally Smith, who is our town hall organizer, and she will do the rest of the introductions and get the evening started. Sally.
Thank you. I'm Sally Smith. I'm a volunteer board member with the RCPC, and I'll just be introducing our great speaker for the evening. So this is Kathleen Shaw. She's the Director of Communications for the Oakland League of Women Voters. She's also Vice President of the Bay Area League of Women Voters, and she's been volunteering for more than 6 years with the League. And apparently she's done more than 30 of these over the years. So we're very lucky we have a veteran presenter and super committed volunteer to the League, so thank you for that, Kathleen. And she's also on the Regional Planning Commission and a delegate to the UN, so she doesn't let the dust settle, we'll say. So thanks, Kathleen. I'm looking forward. Oh, and before I turn it over, yes, the next forum is on October 18th up at College Prep, and we'll have the two 8015 candidates, Javanka Beckles and Bucky Wicks. So October 18th, put that on your calendar. And if you Google it, you can find Eventbrite to RSVP. It's free, but we're trying to collect RSVPs. Over to you, Kathleen.
Thank you. I always hate to say veteran. That means I better be up my game. But I always like to joke, retirement didn't take for me. After I retired a couple of years ago, it seems to me I'm doing a lot more. But my particular background, and if it's helpful as we look at that, is I've got more than 30 years in terms of government affairs and what have you, as well as doing a lot in legislation, land use, environment, and whatever. So I get to take that and put it into what we call the pros and cons in the analysis of these ballots. We have 11 state propositions. We have 6 Oakland. We have 2 for Peralta College, and then 1 East Bay Regional Park. And so what I'm going to do for you is, and that's all part of our League commitment. Our League, we are non-partisan. We do not endorse candidates, but we're very much, obviously, about issues. We have 2 arms. We have an advocacy arm where we will take positions, but then we have a voter service education arm where we are very much about committed to creating informed electorate, engaging you, empowering you to be able to have all of the knowledge and the ability to take a position, raise your voice, and make democracy work, as we say. So, when I'm talking these ballots, I will give you I'll give you the overview of it, what it is, what's the situation behind it, what could be the fiscal effect, if that seems to be a big deal, because we have a lot of bond measures as well as parcel tax and other kinds of things. I will also then give you what the supporters say and what the opponent says, whatever it is. I will also always remind you that anything you see, and when you're evaluating propositions or ballot measures, you're going to get lots of different flyers and things on it. So hopefully what this can do is give you enough information so you can kind of evaluate. Because in all of these many things, there's always a lot of half-truths, exaggerations, or in some cases, they really stretch the truth and what have you. What you'll notice on your sheet that you picked up, it has all of the propositions listed, as well as the ballot measures. But notice on the other side. The other side is a list of all kinds of places. So I do this, and you go, you know, I want more. I want to really get into the weeds on this. You've got every kind of source here, and their objectives that you can look at. You'll notice that you have the Easy Voter Guide for California, and you will get this afterwards. It looks like this. This is the Easy Voter Guide created by the League of Women Voters California. It's all with the state propositions. You'll also, some of you have gotten this, we've also created the Easy Voter Guide for Oakland. And what you're going to see in this particular one is the list of all the candidates with their statements and their picture. There's no endorsements, just so you can actually physically see them, as well as the pros and cons of the local ballot measures. We have even done something else, and they just were launched. We created 5 videos on the local ballot measures. And you can go to YouTube, and you go to a link, and you can see them. And they truly are. It's a pros and cons, but it's a visual, graphic way, and it's a good reminder. They're 3 to 5 minutes. These are not long ones. Voter's Edge is an incredible reference. I'm giving you all these because you're going to say, how many notes can I take? You really, I think it's a matter of you being able to listen to it and say, what's missing? What do you need to know? But this bookmark here kind of gives you an idea. Voter's Edge gets you all the facts before you can vote. You can plug it in. It's not only going to give you all the, use your address, you get a personalized ballot, gets you in-depth information on the candidates' measures, check when and where how to vote, and then keep track of your choices and where you vote, and then you can share your choices as well. So it's a very, very good reference. And let me tell you, we spend a lot of time updating it constantly because new facts, new things are unveiled. So that's my preliminary. I want you to know where we're going, what we're going to be doing. My first question to you is, because we have so much and we're going to cover it, and that's why we're going to wait for questions at the end. So keep note, if there's something you really want to know more about, at the end we can go do that. But my question to you is, I could start with the state proposition, or I could start with the local measures. Just as a show of hands, would you prefer the local measures first? Okay. How about if you want me to just start with the propositions and move forward? How many? Okay, we'll just do it that way then. Just wanted to give you a choice so that we don't shortchange anything.
Are the propositions in either one of these things that we've gotten in the mail?
Yes.
Should be. They should. They should.
Not the full explanation of them though. That comes in the state ballot, which we haven't gotten yet.
Where do I find the California proposition?
That will come in you haven't gotten that one yet.
And I also have a good handout for you with pros and cons of all the state propositions you can walk away with.
Thank you.
It's the short version. It's not the ballot version, if you will.
Could we have that while you talk?
I think I don't want you sitting there reading. To be very honest, that's the only reason I haven't given it to you. Because I think we're better off if you listen. But you don't have, my point is you can walk away and then you've got your ballot and you have your, I think he's showing what his ballot looks like.
It just came.
Just
Started coming.
right. All right, we'll go numerically. Let's do Proposition 1. This is the bonds. The first 4 propositions are all about bonds. So right off the bat. But this is the bonds for housing assistance, and it's a legislative statute. In other words, the legislator voted on it just so they could put it on the ballot. What it does, they want to be able to borrow. They want $4 billion in bonds for housing assistance. And they hope will be the end result will be that it will affect and build at least 30,000 multifamily units, 7,500 farm worker units, and 3,000 homes for veterans. So how are they going to do that? Basically, what that $4 billion, what they're going to do is they want to put at least $1.8 billion in building or renovating affordable apartments, $1 billion to home loans to eligible veterans, $450 million down payment help for low and moderate home ownership, and then $450 million to infrastructure to support housing construction, water, sewage, transportation. $300 million will go to farm worker housing, rental, and owner-occupied. You can see it's pretty comprehensive. What they have created in there that to be able to oversight, they're going to have what they call administration oversight that's within the ballot measure, which means the governor, treasurer, director of finance, Department of Housing, Community Development, Department of Veteran Affairs, independent public accountant of recognized standing. So this is a big deal. So why is it on the ballot? Because voters have to approve legislature bonds. We're authorizing them to be able to borrow. Basically, their bond, $3 billion will cost the general fund about $5.9 billion over 35 years. They go to investors and they, in a sense, get to borrow the money so they can have upfront monies, and then they use them accordingly. That's your general obligation bond. And $1 billion that they're talking about, because we said $3 billion will go to the general fund, but $1 billion for the veterans assistance would be repaid as veterans pay off their loans. Proceeds basically from the bond, how they're going to do it, they're going to award local government, nonprofit organizations, and private developers in a competitive process for projects to fulfill these goals. And they're very strict in the measure, saying what the projects are going to, generally what they're going to be, and how they're going to be administered, and they must be for those, and funds, and a special fund to do it. Who's supporting it? Housing California, California Housing Consortium, State Construction Trades, Silicon Valley Leadership, and the California Homeless and Housing Coalition Action Fund. The only opposition, and there may be more, but right now the only one that's listed is Gary Wesley. Just so you know, Gary Wesley, looking up who's Gary Wesley. And he's a lawyer who specializes in opposition research. You'll see his name pop up, and he fully believes that nothing should be unopposed, and so he will do what he has to do. So supporters say this is going to provide housing relief, build housing, and help people buy homes. And it honors veterans by helping them buy a home. That's what it's trying to do. Opponents are saying, well, it helps only a limited number of people, and repaying the bond will cost it more, as the bond does. So that's Proposition 1. That's the quick version. We can get into more detail if you really want. I have a whole lot more, but that's right there. Proposition 2, another bond. This is for housing for those with mental illness. Again, another legislative statute, something that came out of the legislature for us to vote on because it's a bond. What it does is it would clarify the use of money, which has already been funded for supportive housing for those with mental illness. It's on the ballot because in 2004, voters approved Proposition 63. Remember the Mental Health Services Act. That was the one that imposed a 1% income tax on millionaires to fund mental health services. Remember that? But in 2016, to spend, from this, they wanted to spend about $2 billion of this tax for supportive housing, which was challenged in court. They wanted to institute what they called No Place Like Home program. And this was billed to rehabilitate or build or rehabilitate housing for those with mental illness who are homeless or at risk. Very, very focused, taking the mental health fund, at least $2 billion of it, and then put it to looking at supportive housing. Now, what this bill is to make sure it will clarify voter wishes. Is it okay to do this? And right now it's in a court case, and if you the voters, say yes, go ahead, and you can do that, then they can move forward and it will start immediately. There is no direct impact on the state budget because the bonds are already paid back up to $140 million annually from the funds generated by already Proposition 63. Bonds like this are to be paid, just so you know, approximately over 30 years at 4.2% interest for approximately $120 million a year. Now, you have a whole host of people supporting this, and the people I'm going to quote when I say supporting it, they put money behind it, is Affordable Housing Now, Housing California, California Housing Consortium, State Construction Trades, Silicon Valley Leadership, and the California Homeless and Housing Coalition Action Fund. The people who are against it are leaders of the National Alliance on Mental Illness out of Contra Costa. We're not quite sure why, but they could be, and I'll give you what opponents are saying to give you an idea of why they're opposing it. Those who support it say this is great. it goes to the fact that more and more all they're looking at is that they see the need for housing for homeless, and they see the need for those with mental illness wherever they are, not just for severely mental ill, but across the board, the need for housing and for their health and to increase their health, better their health. So they alleviate homelessness complicated by illness, that's what supporters say, no place like home. Supportive housing allows coordinated care for people who need treatment and stable housing. This is what they're trying for. The funds are already earmarked for mental health services. We're not asking for additional. Opponents are saying, well, it's spending dollars on building instead of needed treatment. Counties already use Proposition 63, opponents say. They use these dollars for housing for severely mental ill patients. The bill doesn't address restrictive zoning laws that make it difficult to build neighborhood housing. And that is always that dilemma. So that's what those are. That's Proposition 2, the bond for housing those with mental illness. Proposition 3, bonds for water projects. This is an initiative, coming up from the groundswell. What it does is that they want to sell a bond, $8.9 billion, to fund water infrastructure, primarily through cost sharing with local governments, to be repaid from the general fund. And I'll be a little more specific what they mean. They have pretty elaborate finance committee that is created for this measure. We'll have a director of finance, treasurer, and controller, in other words, to monitor where and how these funds are being. Most of the money will be distributed to National Resource Conservancy. It's going to go to them for projects that are so identified. Something to note, that the state has used 60 bonds for the state, out of the state general fund over the years. And the bonds are the way to borrow for voters to get, and voters need to give the permission to do it. The monies that have already been allotted are already running out. This is why they're coming back. So what is this bond going to do? Why should we say yes to it? It will give affordable drinking water in low-income areas, remove pollutants. That's one big project. Repair reservoirs, including Oroville Dam and the Kern Canal. Wastewater treatment and recycling are part of the project. Wetlands restoration for flood protection, Bay Area and elsewhere. Going to capture storm runoff to refill ground basins, desalt groundwater, a whole series of projects. Watershed improvement to prolong water runoff, reduce fire danger, and remove invasive species. That's all part of that watershed improvement. And look at habitat for fish and wildlife, including the Pacific Flyway, that's migratory birds. Those are the water projects that they're looking to do with it. So your repayment, they'll be paying about $435 million per year for 40 years over the time to repay the bond. Local governments will share the cost with the state. Actual local government costs depend on the grants received, because that's how the money is going to go out to the projects, is through grants, through the Natural Conservancies. There's even the belief that the local governments may save money due to cost sharing with state funds for the projects that are going to serve their area. Well, since 2000, voters approved $31 billion in 60 bonds. 1/3 is still available as of June 2018. And this includes the $4 billion approved Proposition 68 out of June election to show you how much this is all costing. That's why they're back. That's why they're looking for more that they need to get. Agriculture and dairy, pistachio growers, waterfowl association, California for Safe Drinking Water, and Northern California Water Association. They're supporters of this and putting money into hoping this will go forward. Again, is Sierra Club and the Central Solano Citizen Taxpayer Group. And they actually list the names of President Janet Roberts and Vice President Robert Jarvis. So those are, they haven't put any money, but that's just where they are. So what do supporters say? It's going to help increase our water supply from various sources. ensure safe drinking water for disadvantaged communities. That's a big piece of what's going on with this. Watershed restoration will improve water quality and protect agricultural interests. Opponents say California water bonds need planning and oversight by the legislature rather than the initiative process. Big water users, not taxpayers, and those who cause water problems should pay for the more of the cost. This is what their big thing is. Doesn't do enough to fix our California water shortage, is what opponents are saying. Last, Proposition 4, bonds for hospitals for children. Most of these, by the way, will take a majority vote to be able to pass. Proposition 4, this is causing a lot of back and forth about it because it is a bond of $1.5 billion to renovate and expand buildings as well as upgrade technology at hospitals that treat children. Most of the funding is reserved, in fact 72% of the funding, for 8 private nonprofit hospitals. And 12% is for the University of California hospitals. These are all the children's hospitals. Now, the background is that the California Children's Hospital Association intermittently asked taxpayers to help. And in 2004, voters backed $750 million in bonds. 2008, voters backed $980 million in bonds. And, however, most of that money has been used. And it will run out, actually, according to that, by the end of summer or fall of this year. Now, they do have an oversight committee built into it, and that's going to, again, be Director of Finance, Treasurer, and Controller. Now, these hospitals that they're talking about, these are the hospitals that focus on treating infants and children with severe illness or injuries and complex chronic health conditions, and they require specialized care. To give you an idea of what the hospitals they're talking about, and you have out of the California Children's Hospital, these are the private, you have Children's Hospital in LA, Miller Hospital in Long Beach, Valley Hospital in Fresno, Children's Hospital in Orange County, Children's Hospital in Oakland, Lucille Packard Stanford Children's Hospital, Rady San Diego, Loma Linda in San Bernardino. Those are those private that we're looking at. And then you have the UC academic medical centers that are children's centers as well. So, who's opposed to, those are the supporters besides the California Teachers Association. You have the Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association, and Gary Wesley is back and saying that he's opposing that. Supporters say helps over 2 million children per year, leads to better health outcomes. These hospitals in particular serve poor children. Previous bonds, dollars, almost used up to add beds and to buy new technology. That's what this is all about. Now, opponents are saying, well, we'll have to raise taxes or take money from other things to pay the interest. Taxpayers shouldn't pay for private hospitals. Hospitals can take out their own bonds. And the big one for me is, well, let's first improve the entire health system to lower medical costs. So that's what they're saying. This will go on at a yearly repayment of $80 million over 35 years. To give you an idea how long this will go. All right. Proposition 5, property tax transfers on some homes. This is an initiative, constitutional amendment, and a statute. To give you an idea what it is. What it will is it allows older or disabled homeowners and right now, and those whose property has been impacted by disaster or contamination, to take their lower property tax base from Proposition 13 to a new home anywhere in California. It allows, the second part allows the purchase of a home of lesser or greater value. If the new home is of greater value, the tax would be raised accordingly, but it would be raised at a much lower rate than as we would all experience. Background, just so you know, current law allows a tax break only for a home of lesser value and only within the county. This particular proposition was to cover, you can move wherever you want. You're not